I'll tell you what, you can't ask for much more of a perfect start than what Alex Golesh has had so far at Auburn.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Happy early signing day to all who celebrate, which is probably all of you if you're watching a daily Auburn show. Hopped on Locked On SEC. We'll talk. Chris Gordy and I talk about the return of DJ Durkin. And of course, Daryl and I reacted live to that, or not live, but we put up an instant reaction video if you missed that. If you want more DJ Durkin content, some potential flips that may be coming. But let's start with Alex Golesh. Has had just an incredible start as his tenure as Auburn's head football coach. Yes, retaining DJ Durkin is absolutely huge. It's going to be huge on the field. It's going to be huge off the field. And it's going to be huge today on signing day. So DeShawn Spencer is a guy that we mentioned a few shows ago when we talked about maybe some potential recruiting impacts of Alex Golesh coming up from South Florida. DeShawn Spencer he liked Auburn. He had the best relationships, we were told, with South Florida, but he commits to Duke. Well, now he is flipped from Duke to Auburn. He is committed to the Auburn Tigers, and he's expected to sign today, which is exciting. There's going to be a trend here with a lot of these guys that we talk about. They're within that 250-mile radius that Golesh talked about in his presser Monday, that the stat's going to work harder than anybody as far as keeping the talent within the 250-mile radius. DeShawn Spencer from Maryland. This guy has been coaching in Tampa, Golesh, but man, he has been recruiting the state of Alabama. Another guy, DJ Broughton, 3-star tight end from Mary Montgomery in Alabama, was committed to USF, has flipped to Auburn. That happened earlier in the week. And his tape is interesting, Broughton, because he's a little raw. The technique doesn't jump off the page, but the potential tools do. This guy's 6'5", 220 pounds, plays pretty much receiver at Mary Montgomery. And this reminds me of another guy that Auburn had in their class for a pretty extended amount of time, Kentrell White. Kentrell White decommits. You have to assume it was because DJ Broughton, you don't need two of those guys in your class. Guys that are big receivers at the high school level, and you're hoping you can scoot them inside and use that versatility as potentially a receiving tight end. And boy, does Auburn have the desire to have a receiving tight end after what they've seen this season. Another in-state guy, Josiah Dozier, 3-star wide receiver, was committed to the University of South Florida. Golesh takes the Auburn job. He decommits. Now, is he following Golesh? I don't know, but there was some speculation that, hey, look out for this guy. Moody, Alabama, 6'2", 190. Probably more of a boundary receiver than a flanker. So for folks, and we're kind of using this as, we're basing it off of Auburn's old offense. We'll see kind of how guys are labeled and used in Golesh's offense when he's at Auburn once we get more information. But that's more of like Cam Coleman's position, not Eric Singleton's position. So for what that's worth. So Josiah Dozier, a guy to keep an ear out for. With them getting DeShawn Spencer, they probably won't go that route, but worth noting. And also just worth also noting that he had a guy from Moody, Alabama committed to South Florida. This is a guy who is going to, he's already been recruiting the state of Alabama. This is a very, very good thing, I think, for the future of Auburn recruiting. Another flip that is expected to happen today, Rhys Brush. He's a 3-star quarterback, 6'2", 180, committed to USF. So similar to Broughton coming to Auburn and Kentrell White not being a part of this class, I think you saw a similar thing with Brush being expected to flip, and Peyton Falzone, the former Penn State QB commit, now the former Auburn QB commit. The assumption is his offer was pulled because of Rhys Brush. He's expected to flip from USF to Auburn today. Other guys worth noting, Jordan and Rhys Brush is a Florida kid. He goes to Armwood in Florida. Jordan Carter, 4-star edge. His bio says 5-star. I'm sure he's got a 5th star somewhere. I'm not entirely sure where it is. I couldn't find it, but I've read an article or two about him too that refer to him as a 5-star. But all the ratings I look at, he's a 4-star. So take that for what it's worth. He's a good player. Douglas County, Georgia, 6'3", 245, and it looks like he can hold so much more weight, which is exciting. That's a very, very exciting thing. And he posted a picture of him in an Auburn uniform, talking about how, you know, those threads look good on him. And a lot of fans are like, yes, they do. Please come to Auburn. And then I think the only other post when I looked earlier today that he had since then was him just retweeting Auburn announcing the hire of Alex Golesh. So that's encouraging, but he's talked to Brian about it. In fact, Brian Smith and I, we did a full show, and then we retained DJ Durkin, and then Kentrell White decommitted, and then DeShawn Spencer flipped, and it's like, okay, I'm just going to do a new show, which is fine. So yeah, he called Jordan Carter a future NFL player. So take that for what it's worth. And then other guys, I've actually got a few DMs about these guys, Corey Wells and Chris Wells. We talked about these guys a long time ago. Corey Wells, top defensive lineman, committed to Tennessee. And then his brother, Chris Wells, is a linebacker committed to South Alabama. Both these guys are from Petal, Mississippi, for what that's worth. And there's some buzz there about that. And then the last guy I want to talk about, and we'll kind of bridge this with the big news of DJ Durkin coming back, is there's some people that think Braylon Womack is still on the table, a potential return, a flip back. Of course, just days ago, he flipped from Auburn to Mississippi State. Does Durkin coming back help? Does that news give Auburn the last bit of ammo they needed to bring him back? I mean, that would be huge. That would be huge. I mean, he's a future NFL player. He's an incredible athlete. He doesn't need to be in Starkville, Mississippi. So hopefully it leads to that. That would be a huge, huge momentum booster, class booster, ranking booster for this. So there's a few things that I'm anticipating happening today. I mean, these names, for one, and we'll see what happens with Womack. But the ranking next to Auburn's recruiting, you know, all these recruiting rankings, it's not going to be super great. The volume is not going to be there. I'm curious to see what happens with the 2027 class and how quick they get after it at the start of next year. I'm really eager to see all that, but don't overreact to a poor ranking. They're going to have to go heavy in the portal at several key positions anyway. So this will give them kind of that roster flexibility for Alex Golesh to build the roster he wants right away. And I think some of that is by design. I think some of that is just kind of salvaging, you know, Hugh Freeze's last class was not great. They lost a ton of momentum, as we talked about throughout the offseason. So take that for what it's worth. So the list of decommitments: Peyton Falzone, Nikau Heppy, Braylon Womack flipped to Mississippi State, and then Kentrell White. All of these guys, there's been an answer for. Well, with Peyton Falzone and Kentrell White, there's been answers for. Nikau Heppy, I think he was a 3-year guy. Maybe in the 3rd season, he has a chance to compete for a job. And then obviously Braylon Womack, big deal. We'll see what happens with him. All right. I hopped on Locked On SEC. We talked about the overall news, and then we also talked about the impact that DJ Durkin could have if Alex Golesh's offense is just okay and DJ Durkin's defense holds steady. Could Auburn win 8, 9, 10 games next year? Yeah, they probably could. I don't care how difficult the schedule is. That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Alumni Hall. We love Alumni Hall here on this show. In fact, that's where we buy all of our Auburn gear. They've got 3 great physical locations in Auburn, Opelika, and Huntsville. They also have an incredible website that's super easy to use. You can get stuff shipped right to your door. Of course, it's easy. alumnihall.com. They've got a hat wall in the back of their Tiger Town store. It's incredible. They've got everything you could possibly imagine, all Auburn stuff on super high quality brands. So it doesn't matter what exactly you're looking for, they've got it. And look, it's Christmas time. It's Christmas shopping season. You can knock out so many Auburn fans on your Christmas list by just going to Alumni Hall. So give them some love. 3 great physical locations in Auburn, Opelika, and Huntsville, and online at alumnihall.com. All right, hopped on Locked On SEC with Chris Gordy. Let's get into that conversation.
Of course, Alex Golesh introduced as the head coach on what was that, Monday. Did the Tiger Walk and all that, and so we'll start there. Zach, your reaction to your new head coach on the Plains?
Love it. The more I learn about the guy, the more I read about him, the more I watch him in old interviews, and the more I hear, what he's done at Auburn so far. I think it's everything Auburn needed. This guy is football through and through. And I think with, what happened, 2 regimes ago with Harsin, where it's just like, all right, I'm going to show up and go home, almost treat it like a normal job and not recruit, to Hugh Freeze, to where, okay, I'm going to grind and do everything super early and then just kind of fizzle out is what it seemed like. And some of that may have been health related. Who knows? Doesn't matter. He fizzled out. And this guy has worked his entire life for this moment. And you can tell that he's going to do everything in his power to make the most of it, which is super, super exciting. He's won everywhere he's been. He's been, an elite recruiter everywhere he's been, especially, relative to his peers. When you look at the conference, what he did in the MAC at Toledo, and then what he did at USF, taking over a program like that. So I'm expecting a ton of really, really good things from Alex Golesh, and I'm expecting it early. There was no talk about, hey, I need time, I need patience, I need y'all to trust me. It was, no, I'm going to earn your trust, and we're going to win right away. We are in a race against ourselves. And I think if he can retain the roster, bring the offense that he had at Tennessee and at USF to Auburn, he retains DJ Durkin. Auburn's got a chance to be good right away under Golesh if he can hold on to the roster.
Yeah, I had to ask, this was, I think, over the weekend I think this was actually on Friday, when it was rumored that he had an offer on the table from Arkansas, and it was trending the direction Alex Golesh was going to go to Arkansas.
Yeah.
I remembered his time at Tennessee. I like calling him a Heupel disciple. We know that he got the most out of Hendon Hooker when he was there, and Hooker was in the Heisman race when he was there.
That offense was incredible. With Jalen Hyatt, that was crazy.
Oh, yeah. Our niece is a cheerleader at USF. And so my wife was actually at the game on Saturday when they played Rice. And she even said, she texted me as they were doing the walk-in. She sent me the video. She goes, oh, this feels like they're gone. Like it literally, everybody at USF was like, yeah, like this is it. Like, we know he's leaving after this. And so it's ironic that, not even 24 hours later, 48 hours later, he's gone and he's at Auburn.
She called it. That's crazy.
But our guy, Eric Kane, we texted him and I said, hey, give me the skinny on Golesh from your perspective, who covers the Tennessee Vols and covered him on a daily basis. And this is what the Kaner said. He said, Golesh is the man, huge fan, saw him last month when he was up here recruiting, just a great down-to-earth dude. He has his quirks like any coach does, but he's headstrong and has a great mind. He evolves offensively, and he is a butt kicker, meaning he gets after it with the players. And he said that's the number one thing Tennessee was missing on offense when he left.
Yeah,
that they didn't have that. But he said Golesh is that dude. And so that's an unbiased, it's a Tennessee guy complimenting the new Auburn coach. I just thought that was a great insight there.
Yeah, I think that's big. And that's what Auburn needed. Culture was something that we talked about a ton at Locked On Auburn. And I'm sure it's a ton that you've talked about, just, discussing Auburn from the conference level, Gordy, where we all kind of picked on Hugh Freeze for saying, oh, we're close, which he didn't need to say that. But the issue was culturally, he couldn't win. Like there was no winning culture there. It was a culture of losing. And so you've got, these videos that, Auburn fans have dug up. And, I've quoted on some social media stuff where he's asked about close losses. He went on Jim Rome a few weeks after he lost to Bama at South Florida the second time. Both times against Bama, he played him very close. And he was like, is that something that could ignite your season? Like close loss against Alabama. And he's like, close losses are for losers. And Auburn people are like, yes, this is what we needed. So a nice shift. He's hit the ground running already with recruiting and, early signing day with the 10 million things that you have to do with the way this athletic calendar works, which is clearly not the ideal situation. There needs to be changes. But still, he's making the most of it. And we've got some early momentum on the recruiting trail as well.
He's also got the little Zach Blackerby spike in the hair. When you're not wearing a hat, your hair kind of poofs up like that in the front.
So nobody knows this, but I've actually done that for a while now because of Alex Golesh.
Right. Just on the surface level, and we'll see how it all trickles out here over the next month when the portal opens. But I guess you got to feel pretty confident if you're an Auburn fan about maintaining a lot of these offensive pieces like Cam Coleman and so on and so forth.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are some positions that are going to feel the portal weight a little bit more than others, but I'd be surprised if Cam Coleman left. I think Auburn's going to make sure he's taken care of, but like the wide receiver position is intriguing. There's already kind of been some rumblings about, South Florida's got two pretty elite receivers there. And so there's already kind of rumors that they may follow Alex Golesh to Auburn, as well as his elite quarterback, which then makes it super interesting for Deuce Knight and Ashton Daniels. So I get asked about Cam and I get asked about Deuce. Those are the two that, most Auburn fans want to know about. Feel super confident about Cam Coleman. Deuce Knight, I genuinely don't know.
Yeah, and look, I told a few people this because there's some Florida people worried about, oh God, we might lose this player, and LSU, Lane Kiffin, we might lose this. But look, you're all in on your new coach. You got to trust the new coach. If they don't want this player, you got to trust that they're going to make the right roster decisions.
Yeah, and also like, there's very few players on every roster that's just not replaceable by another guy that's in the portal.
Yeah.
Auburn's got 3 or 4. I've got a few folks that have come on that think that number's a little bit higher. But I mean, Cam is one. I think Jay Crawford at corner is the other. Those are the two that I think are most important for retention purposes. But Auburn's got a lot of young guys that played a lot this year that looked really, really good. It's just going to take them time to develop and become elite. They're good. Can they get to great or elite? And, you hope with Durkin coming back on the defensive side of the ball, and then, hopefully some better offensive coaching by Golesh and a lot of his staff that's coming up from South Florida. You hope they can take that next step.
When we return, Zach, he will not have to worry about the defensive side of the ball. We got some big news coming out yesterday. More here on a Locked On SEC, Locked On Auburn crossover right after this. Want to remind you guys about our friends at FanDuel first. NFL Sundays, they move fast. One big play, suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. And our friends at FanDuel, they've also got all the college action up there as well happening this weekend as we take a look at some of the lines. SEC Championship is where our focus is. It's Georgia versus Bama. Georgia, a 2.5-point favorite, although they must not be looking at all the history, right? All the times
Gordy.
Alabama has owned Georgia at Kirby Smart.
Let's look a little bit closer. Let's look at a game tonight. I mean, we've got the ACC SEC Challenge tonight.
Oh, you're going basketball. Okay.
Auburn a 5, and it's a FanDuel read. Let's get to the lines that are happening quicker. Auburn a 5.5-point favorite against NC State. That's in Neville Arena. The game starts at 8:15 Central. A little too late to my liking, but whatever. We'll have coverage over at Locked On Auburn. But give me Auburn by 5.5. I think they cover.
All right, there you go. If you're like Zach Blackerby, you want to get in on the action tonight. I want to get one more full swing at football happening this weekend, and that SEC championship game is going to be a lot of fun. If you want to, hey, look, they got parlays. If you want to be right in the middle of the action all throughout the season, visit FanDuel.com. Place your live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Continue on here, Locked On SEC, Locked On Auburn, a little crossover edition. And Zach, the big news that came out Monday, I'm lost in days, Tuesday afternoon. Auburn retaining DJ Durkin as a defensive coordinator. Absolutely huge, because I was talking to some folks at LSU. They were saying if Blake Baker doesn't stay, maybe they were going to go after Durkin. He had been with Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss prior. So you were going to have a lot of people coming after DJ. So talk about the relief of seeing that news come out.
Yeah, certainly a guy that, I mean, retaining him's big for two reasons. One, obviously on the field, we saw what Auburn was able to do despite them being on the field a ton and having to carry games. I mean, the fact that Auburn had as many close games as they did with how awful they were on offense is just a testament to, how good of a job DJ Durkin and his defense did. And that's on the field. Off the field, I mean, I think we had an idea of how much these players loved and respected DJ Durkin, but when he got that interim tag and got to lead Auburn for a few weeks there, I mean, these guys really responded. They love DJ Durkin. And, I think we can kind of argue, how important player retention needs to be. But at Auburn, if Alex Golesh wants to win right away, like, player retention does seem to be important. And so I think keeping him is going to give you a better shot at some of these players staying for another year, which is crucial for Auburn, crucial for Alex Golesh.
Yeah, here was the statement from Golesh saying, choosing to keep DJ on our staff was an easy call. Our relationship goes back more than 20 years to our roots in Ohio. We've worked with some of the same men. We've competed against each other in this great league. We're fortunate to retain one of the top defensive minds in college football here on the Plains. That's the thing, Zach. Most people I talked to said this is a no-brainer. All Auburn needs to do is have a little bit of offense, and it seems like Alex Golesh is the right guy for that. If they can maintain this consistency with what Durkin's done with the defense the last few years on Auburn, they're going to be a lot better. They're going to win a lot of games next year.
Yeah. I mean, Gordy, I feel like we did the same pitch. I did the same pitch to you in June and July going into this past season. I'm like, Jackson Arnold just got to be okay. If Auburn has the eighth best, or if he's the eighth best quarterback in the SEC, Auburn's going to win 8 or 9 games, which I still think would have been true, right? With how close these games were. So, the same thing stays. Now, I do wonder, I think they've got to shore up some things on the defensive front, both at edge and all that. They're going to need some help in the portal for sure. And they're going to need to hold on some of their young guys that maybe didn't play as much as they would like, but the path to playing time is there. So I don't know why they would leave now, but there's going to be some positions on defense where they're going to have to make sure everybody stays. Defensive back is an interesting one as well. But yeah, Auburn should be fine on defense with DJ Durkin. He's done a great job rotating guys. So even if a few guys leave, he's got so many guys that played last year that they're not all going to leave. They're going to want to continue to play for him. So I think that's, I think that was a good thing. And it sounded like Golesh offered him pretty quickly, and the offer sat there for a bit. Like you mentioned, LSU and some others. Like, I'm sure he got some calls, and I guess he needed to assess his situation, but the recruits knew pretty early. They were told that he was staying, and then like the announcement came later than I thought it would. So I don't know if there were contract stuff or if they were trying to iron things out.
His presser was asked about it, and he was like, "Oh, we're still working through some things," and was like, "Ooh, that doesn't sound great."
Yeah, I don't even think he was that specific with it. I mean, he didn't really allude to DJ at all. He didn't say DJ's name, and he just said, we've got a plan. We're trying to stick to that plan.
Yeah,
and didn't really give us anything. In fact, it was so little where we're like, "Oh, is he gone? Yeah. Is he gone now?" And then we started hearing different things, and it's like, okay, well, where's the announcement? So I'm glad the announcement came, obviously, right before signing day, which makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. By the way, today is signing day. We'll have a reaction tomorrow to how the SEC does, but a lot of moving and shaking with all these new coaches coming in. And speaking of that, Zach, looking at Auburn's schedule next year, I believe 4 of the new coaches all on it. You guys play Auburn, you play Florida, you play LSU. I believe all 3 of those on the Plains, and then you're at Ole Miss playing Pete Golding. But Pete Golding, John Summerall, Ryan Silverfield, and Lane Kiffin now at LSU. Which game kind of scares you the most of where all these new coaches are?
Yeah, I mean, LSU for sure. When this came out, I mean, we were thinking about Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, and then, Brian Kelly at LSU. Maybe he gets a new offensive coordinator, figures it out. It might be a little bit easier now. I'm kind of expecting a little bit of a fall off from Ole Miss, and then I'm obviously expecting more from LSU. Arkansas is kind of whatever. We'll see what happens with Vandy now that not a new coach, but a new quarterback, a totally new situation. Sounds like they flipped a 5-star, which is absolutely a 5-star quarterback to Vandy. That's insane. Good for Clark Lee. That's crazy. So we'll see what that looks like. Can he have the same kind of impact that Diego Pavia had? I'm expecting a big drop off for Vandy too. I don't know how anybody else could replicate what he's done for them over the last few seasons. But Yeah, I mean, look, Auburn has a brutal schedule next year. Like, there's no question about it. But most teams in the SEC do. Like, that's just part of it. We all wanted that extra game. This is what it looks like. This is the byproduct of it.
Yeah, and by the way, your opener, Baylor, that will be in Atlanta.
In Atlanta, they moved it. Yep.
They've already said Dave Aranda is coming back next year, so it'll be Golesh versus Aranda. We know that one hands down to start the season.
Yeah.
The toughest part, though, we didn't even mention the two toughest games at Bama and at Georgia, and then we'll throw in at Tennessee, which will be a fun Golesh versus Heupel reunion there. But yeah, brutal schedule for Auburn next year.
Brutal schedule, but look, that's part of it. You know, that's going to be part of it. And I think most Auburn fans wouldn't have it any other way. They want to play Alabama. They want to play Georgia. And, you know, the SEC, it kind of felt like they were throwing us a bone with like, okay, your protected games are Alabama and Georgia. Let's give you Vandy. But who knows what Vandy will look like with them getting a 5-star quarterback. So, yeah, every schedule is tough. And we'll see how Alex Golesh navigates it.
I'll put you on the hot seat here. Last question, Zach. Here in December of 2025, a year from now, will Auburn be a playoff team?
No.
I just want to put the pressure on Alex Golesh in year one.
Yeah. Do you have the entire schedule in front? I mean, I know you don't have the order, but do you have the schedule?
We don't know the order, but yeah, it's Baylor and Atlanta, Southern Miss, Jackson State. Those are your cupcakes. And remember, we go to 9 SEC games.
Yes, that's it.
The road trip.
We're at 3 wins right now.
Yeah, the road trips at Bama, at Georgia,
3-2,
at Tennessee.
I'm going to give them the win. 4-2.
At Ole Miss, at Mississippi State.
5-2, 6-2. Okay. All right.
Home against Arkansas.
7-2.
Home against Florida.
Why not? 8-2.
Home against Vandy. Home against LSU.
We'll say we split those.
So 9-3. So you're knocking on the door though. You're right there.
Dang. I still say no.
Hey, look, man, if Durkin can get that defense going, again, it sounds stupid to say, but Golesh if the offense has a heartbeat, you guys are going to be in every game.
No, and my question is like, okay, what happens to the defense when the opposing offense knows they have to score 28? Like, does it change?
Yeah.
I mean, we see like there's a reason why good offenses typically don't have great defenses. It's not because the defense isn't talented. It's just it changes the flow of the game and it changes what you have to do. So, I mean, it's tough to answer. It's tough to answer exactly what that's going to look like. But logically, you're right. If DJ Durkin can keep the defense the same and Alex Golesh do what he did at literally everywhere he's been a coordinator or a head coach and score 31 points per game at worst, yeah, Auburn does have a shot.
He is Zach Blackerby, host of Locked On Auburn. Zach, good to talk some positive things with you. It was too much negative the last few weeks over there.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Yeah, you never have me on to talk basketball. So, yeah, it's always negative.
I forgot. Y'all are a basketball school anyway. Zach Blackerby, Locked On Auburn. Thanks, man.
Thanks, buddy. Great stuff with Chris Gordy as always. Thanks for making Locked On Auburn your first listen. Make Locked On SEC your second listen. And for all of your recruiting updates, also go check out Brian Smith over at The Portal. Please like the video. Please subscribe. And we will see you next time. We'll do a signing day recap show later today. And of course, I'll be live super late tonight as Auburn basketball takes on NC State. Happy early signing day. This has been Locked On Auburn.